Hello, this is Dr. Grande. Today's question is, can I analyze the case of Amy Slaton? Just a reminder, I'm not diagnosing anybody in this video, only speculating about what could be happening in a situation like this. If you enjoyed this video, please like it, subscribe to my channel, and consider supporting me on Patreon. I will put the link to Patreon in the description for this video. First, I'll look at the background of this case, move to the timeline of the crime, then offer my analysis. Amy Slaton was born on October 28, 1987, and lived in Dixon, Kentucky. This small town is about 2.5 hours west of Louisville. She was raised by her parents, Frank and Darlene. Amy has 4 siblings, including an older sister named Tammy. Both Amy and Tammy were unable or unwilling to regulate their consumption of food. This appeared to be a struggle for some of their other family members as well. Amy and Tammy both started their own YouTube channels featuring stories, makeup tutorials, and various challenges. Eventually, Amy's channel exceeded 500,000 subscribers, and Tammy's channel exceeded 150,000 subscribers. In 2017, Amy eloped with a man named Michael Halterman. In 2019, they had a second wedding. By this time, the network TLC was filming the lives of Amy and Tammy for a reality television show called 1,000 Pound Sisters. The first episode was released in January 2020. The title of the show came from the combined weight of the sisters. Amy weighed over 400 pounds at this time. Tammy weighed over 600 pounds. In my opinion, Half-Ton Sisters would have been a much better show title than 1,000 Pound Sisters. This better fits with the theme that the idea for the show itself is half-baked. It's like whoever was in charge of show titles at TLC was dead weight. Despite the less than stellar title, the show 1,000 Pound Sisters crushed the competition under the weight of its success. At the time I'm making this video, it has continued for 5 agonizing seasons. In the first season, the sisters both lived in the same house, along with Amy's husband, Michael. They contemplated their weight loss journey, which included the prospect of undergoing bariatric surgery. There were discussions about extremely serious medical problems, intense family drama, and sometimes unrealistic dreams about the future. At the end of season 1, Amy qualified for the bariatric surgery by losing the required amount of weight, but Tammy did not qualify. Amy had the surgery and started to lose weight. In November 2020, Amy and Michael had a son. Everything seemed to be going well for Amy. Starting a family was one of her dreams. Tammy, on the other hand, was not doing as well. She almost died a couple of times as her weight increased to over 700 pounds by early 2022. In July 2022, Amy and Michael had a second son. Around the same time, Tammy managed to get down to 550 pounds, which was the goal weight to be approved for surgery. She had the surgery and survived. In November 2022, Tammy married a man named Caleb Willingham. However, he died less than a year later on June 30, 2023. On September 20, 2023, Amy and Michael divorced. Michael requested a restraining order to keep Amy 500 feet away from him. Keeping away from Michael did not appear to be difficult for Amy. She quickly found a new lover named Tony. After they broke up, she found another lover named Kevin. This relationship ended as well. At the end of season 5 of the reality show, Amy was down to 275 pounds, and Tammy was down to 225 pounds. Given this outcome, TLC could have renamed the show 500 Pound Sisters, or, as I would recommend, Quarter Ton Sisters. Now moving to the timeline of the crime. On Monday, September 2, 2024, Amy Slaton was at the Tennessee Safari Park on Conley Road in Alamo, Tennessee. This small town is about 1.5 hours northeast of Memphis. The safari park features a 7.5-mile drive-through safari and a 20-acre walk-through zoo. According to the website, one of the highlights of any visit should include feeding a giraffe and getting a slobbery kiss from its 1.5-foot tongue. The attraction, of course, contains many other animals which have varying tongue lengths. Many of these creatures appear to be highly interested in motor vehicles, or at least the food possessed by the vehicle's occupants. Most days at the safari park are probably uneventful, but this one was not. Police officers responded to a call about a guest being bitten by a camel. When the police arrived, they searched for the combative and cranky camel. However, they found themselves overtaken by a suspicious odor coming from a vehicle occupied by Amy Slaton. Ultimately, Amy was arrested and charged with illegal possession of Schedule 1 and Schedule 6 drugs, as well as 2 counts of child endangerment. The drugs she allegedly possessed were mushrooms and marijuana. Schedule 1 refers to drugs with a high potential for addiction and no accepted medical use. This includes mushrooms. There is no such thing as Schedule 6 in the federal system. Rather, this is a designation that the state of Tennessee uses. Schedule 6 refers to substances that have a low potential for addiction, like marijuana. A man named Brian Scott Loworn, who was in the vehicle with Amy, was arrested on the same charges. There is no word on whether the police were able to apprehend the camel. There may be no end in sight for the cantankerous camel-crunching nightmare at the safari park. The camel may actually be an important witness. The state could offer a plea deal to testify against Amy. Now moving to my analysis. The television show 1,000-Pound Sisters has received a wide variety of feedback from viewers. Some people find the show to be inspirational and courageous. From their point of view, the show chronicles the journey of 2 brave women trying to fight their battle with a food addiction. The sisters struggle to interact with the world around them. The show features romantic interactions, grave health concerns, death, and lighthearted moments of comedy. The medical problems are dealt with in a brutal and honest manner, which may be a wake-up call for people struggling with similar difficulties. Other people who watch the show disagree. They do not find it to be appealing and do not see it as having any redeeming value. They believe it is too focused on the dramatic elements and highlights the nonsensical behavior of arrogant and superficial characters who lack insight. One of the major complaints revolves around the idea that the sisters are viewed with a lot more compassion than substance users. For example, the sisters had access to expensive surgeries and other healthcare interventions, whereas people addicted to substances often struggle to access resources. How is a food addiction any better than a drug addiction? The show runs the risk of glamorizing the excessive consumption of food as if it is somehow less dangerous than drug use. After watching a few episodes, I believe that both the show's supporters and detractors have a few good points. The story of the sisters could be thought of as inspirational, but the profound lack of insight is frustrating to watch. One could argue the show accurately captures many aspects of food addiction. Being frustrated is part of the experience of an outside observer. Watching the sisters repeatedly run through the cycle of success and failure can be painful because the same mistakes are being made over and over with little or no recognition of the core problems. People who work with addiction see this every day. This brings me to the arrest of Amy Slaton. It sounds like she was caught with some pretty serious drugs. Amy, of course, maintains the presumption of innocence. But in the event she is guilty, in reality, what could have happened here? This is just a theory, my opinion. In the world of mental health counseling, including providing psychotherapy to those suffering from addiction, there is a phenomenon called addiction replacement. It is also referred to by other names, including addiction substitution, addiction transfer, and cross-addiction. Essentially, the theory behind addiction replacement is that the tendency to become addicted is what drives addiction, not the characteristics of a particular substance or behavior. For instance, if a person is addicted to heroin, banning heroin will not solve the problem. The individual may have a preference for heroin, but they will find a replacement for the drug if they can no longer access it. If they can no longer find any drug, they will still manage to secure a replacement for the addictive behavior. For example, they may start eating excessively, shopping excessively, gambling, or smoking. There will always be another destructive behavior in the line. The theory of replacement addiction is consistent with the idea that mental anguish drives addiction, like depression or anxiety. The addictive behavior masks the pain. It makes life bearable. Telling someone who has a food addiction to reduce consumption is good advice, but it is not the advice that will remedy the addiction. The destructive eating is a symptom of another condition. Perhaps this is what happened in the case of Amy Slaton. As she achieved some success in reducing food consumption, the underlying pain came to the surface. The food served a purpose, and now it was gone. The drugs that she allegedly possessed functioned as a substitute for the food that she was no longer consuming. It's worth noting that addiction substitution does not always happen when a person reduces the primary addictive behavior. Studies show that some people engage in what's called concurrent recovery, meaning the reduction of the primary addictive behavior is accompanied by the reduction of all their addictive behaviors. Concurrent recovery is more likely to occur in people who are actively seeking mental health counseling and are serious about recovery. So it's really based on the level of motivation. Addiction substitution is more likely to happen when people are not seeking treatment, when their motivation is low. It is predicted by being wealthy, having poor coping skills, having a severe addiction, possessing inferior self-help strategies, being surrounded by a poor support network, and by the presence of other mental health symptoms. Unfortunately, addiction substitution often predicts a bad outcome. Not only is the new addiction destructive, the primary addiction often returns. Now moving to my final thoughts. TLC has not yet announced whether there will be a 6th season of 1,000 Pound Sisters, but I think it's likely to return. Some people wonder how Amy's arrest could affect the show. Like, will the network give up on the project? For some reality stars, an arrest like this would mean big trouble. But this type of series thrives on disaster. I imagine that being arrested actually tips the scales in favor of the show returning. Amy may have actually saved the show through her alleged Camel-alerted drug possession activity. It wasn't the straw that broke the camel's back. Rather, from TLC's perspective, it was a weight off their mind. Those are my thoughts in the case of Amy Slaton. Please put any opinions and thoughts in the comment section. They consistently generate an interesting dialogue. As always, I hope you found my analysis of this topic to be informative. Thanks for watching.